Student Success Act marks a turning point for education in Oregon. We can finally invest in an education system that will ensure every single student in our state is on a path to realizing their dreams for the future. What we have come together to do over the past few months will be felt by students, teachers, and schools for years to come. Thank you to the legislature, obviously the co-chairs of the Student Success Committee, and the chairs of the Revenue Committee for getting this done. But I have to say that wasn't all. Since the 1990s, I've been working on meaningful campaign finance reform. Now, after Oregonians vote in November 2020, we'll be able to ensure that no one can buy a megaphone so loud that it drowns out all the other voices. But again, we didn't stop there. In 1991, as an advocate for the Women's Rights Coalition, I first began working on family medical leave. When Governor Barbara Roberts passed that legislation, signed it into law, Oregon became one of the first states in the entire country to ensure that parents could stay home with their children without fear of losing their jobs. The unfortunate and harsh reality is that legislation wasn't meaningful for many struggling families throughout the state without a paid option. Now, in 2019, we have been able to pass 2005, House Bill 2005, that will ensure families across the state can stay home with their sick kids and not have to worry about whether they can pay the rent or the mortgage. So I'm very, very pleased that we were able to get that done. Who's ever on the phone, can you mute? Thank you. But one thing that has changed every year since I first started working in the Capitol over 25 years ago is the cost of housing in Oregon. Dan and I bought our second home in Southeast Portland in the late 1990s. The truth is, if that we were buying our first home today, there's absolutely no way we could afford it. But after the progress we've made this session on addressing the housing crisis, we will ensure that Oregon is moving to be more affordable for everyone. I'm so pleased with the significant investments that we made, both to ensure that everyone has a warm, safe, dry place to call home, and that we can prevent rent gouging in communities throughout the state. Oregon has long been a leader in healthcare access, with virtually every adult covered, either through employer-sponsored insurance, individually purchased coverage, or under the Oregon Health Plan. However, to maintain that coverage and to continue to improve health access across the state, we needed longer-term, more sustainable funding source. I stand before you today and say we have made the progress we needed to make to prevent families from living in fear that their health care will be ripped away from them. I am so pleased for the work that was done over the last couple of weeks on House Bill 2270, and I want to say thank you to the many folks. This was truly a team effort. In total, this has been truly an extraordinary session in terms of making Oregon a place where everyone can thrive. I don't remember a legislative session where we have made this much progress. I'm really proud of what we did and how we did it, collaboratively across the aisle and around the state. That's the Oregon way. But I think we can agree that the Oregon way was not on display the last couple of weeks. And now we are left with one major piece of unfinished business. My colleagues in the legislature and I were elected by Oregonians with a clear mandate to address the challenge of climate change. If that isn't clear to everyone, just ask the young people who stood in the Senate chamber throughout the session and pleaded for their future, for themselves and for their children. I will continue to fight for their futures. We must pass a cap and invest program that will achieve the state's greenhouse gas reduction goals at the least possible cost while continuing to grow our economy. This is an issue that impacts our economies, our communities, and our people across the entire state of Oregon. No matter what political party you affiliate with, we can all agree that this is an issue that will ripple from generation to generation if we do not work together and do our part to make sure that Oregon meets this challenge. Let me be very, very clear. I am not backing down. There was a lot of hard work over the last couple of years since I first announced a cap and invest as a priority legislation. Good work, and frankly, many changes based on constructive industry feedback went into House Bill 2020. Some are saying that a bill with over 100 amendments is a flawed product. I say it's a sign of a collaborative process and a very good bill. So today, I'm asking every Oregonian, particularly those who've been in the Capitol for the last few weeks, to work with us to find a path together to create clean energy jobs across the state. As you all know, I've traveled Oregon extensively to learn more about how climate change is impacting our communities around the state. I've also been listening to those communities to learn how a cap and invest system would impact jobs and industry. Over the next few months, I'm going to redouble my efforts with impacted industries and communities to ensure that we truly understand their concerns. Specifically, I am directing the Carbon Policy Office to work with rural manufacturers to analyze the cost and competitiveness of their industries. We need to know how we can sustain these important jobs this sector provides while meeting our carbon reduction goals. Second, I'm also directing my staff to meet with transportation interests to discuss reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector and further incentivize the transition to lower emitting vehicles under a cap and invest system. My goal for the next few months is to present proposed modifications to the legislation that still achieves the state's greenhouse gas reduction goals at the least possible cost while continuing to grow our economy. We know that economic growth and addressing climate changes are not mutually exclusive goals. Oregonians have elected us to find a path forward to achieving both of those goals.